What would you do if you found out your best friend had secretly been sketching you for years? Because I don't know about you, but I felt like my whole world just flipped upside down. It was supposed to be a normal day. Like, totally ordinary. I had come over to my best friend Felix's house to hang out, nothing new there. Auntie Grace, his mom, was making my favorite dumplings, as she should, because I am a beloved guest. Meanwhile, I was chilling in his ridiculously neat and organized bedroom while he showered. Now, see, this wasn't weird at all. Lixie and I have been best friends for life. I don't even bother announcing my arrival anymore, I just show up, claim his bed, and exist. And yes, I call him Lixie. It's a me-only thing. If anyone else tries, they will face consequences. Anyway, I was lying on his bed, scrolling through my phone, until boredom crept in. So, like any good friend, I started snooping. Not in a bad way, obviously, just casual curiosity. My eyes landed on his study desk. Specifically, the tiny drawer that was always locked. I had asked him about it many times before. Felix, being Felix, just shrugged and refused to let me peek inside. But today, oh ho, today the drawer was unlocked. He must have been in a hurry to shower and forgot to secure it. Or maybe fate was messing with me. Now, in my defense, what kind of best friend doesn't take advantage of such a golden opportunity? So I opened the drawer. Inside were several thick sketchbooks. I wasn't shocked. Felix was good at everything. Top grades, check. Sports, check. Cooking, check. Giving good company, surprisingly, yes. Piano, singing, again, check and check. Sketching, I knew he did it as a hobby, but he never showed me his art. So, naturally, I grabbed the top sketchbook, expecting to see landscapes or anime characters or something. What I did not expect was to see me. Every single page was me. Like, different poses, different expressions, some where I was laughing, others where I was just existing, but it was all me. And the dates, oh my god, the dates. Every single day, one sketch. Not a single day was missing. I swear, my hands started trembling. Was this real? Was I in a prank show? I flipped through the pages at lightning speed, but no, it was all me. Me last year, me the year before, me when I had a stupid haircut I regretted, me wearing my favorite hoodie, me sleeping. I was so not ready for this existential crisis. Just then, Auntie Grace walked in, completely oblivious to the fact that I was experiencing the biggest plot twist of my life. "Nico, honey, would you like some drinks too?" She placed a tray of freshly cooked dumplings on the desk before turning to the bathroom door. "Felix, son, aren't you done yet? How long are you going to keep Nico waiting?" The sound of running water stopped immediately. Then there was a loud thud, like something had dropped. A beat later, the bathroom door slammed open. And there stood Felix, half wet, only in a towel, with abs that I swear I've never noticed before and water dripping from his pitch black hair. He usually looked so composed, so unreadable, but right now, his eyes were wide with horror, and he was staring directly at the sketchbook in my hands. Auntie Grace, bless her innocent soul, just smiled at us. "Oh, you're out, quickly change up, call me if you two need anything." And then she just left me alone in this thick, awkward air with a wet, half-naked, and very panicked Felix. I swallowed hard. Felix took a deep breath, his usual blank expression creeping back into place. He walked up to me calmly, too calmly, and gently took the sketchbook from my hands. "You saw it," he said, voice as deep and controlled as always. I nodded slowly, still at a loss for words. This was a disaster. I mean, usually, I'm the one who never shuts up. I talk even when there's nothing to talk about. Felix just listens, nods, and occasionally grunts in acknowledgement. That's our dynamic. But now I had no idea what to say. Felix smirked. Not one of those normal smirks people do when they're happy. No, this was his, "I'm caught but I won't let you w and smirk." The smirk that made me question if he was actually human or some kind of cold, emotionless AI pretending to be my best friend. "You're staring," he said, as he gently took the sketchbook from my hands, his tone calm but unreadable as always. Oh, I was staring. Not at the sketchbook anymore but at him. I mean, come on. The guy was standing there, wet, shirtless, with that lean, perfectly toned body that even I had to admit looked like it came straight out of a freaking romance novel. His hair was still dripping, water tracing slow lines down his chest, and yet, He was acting like I was the one who did something wrong here. Why yeah, well, I cleared my throat, looking anywhere but at his abs. What the actual hell, Lixie? You've been secretly sketching me like some kind of obsessed stalker and never thought to mention it. Like, hey Nico, how was your day? Oh, by the way, I've been drawing your face every single day for a year now, no big deal. Felix just blinked at me. Then, as if this was some casual everyday thing, he walked over to his wardrobe, completely ignoring my mini freak out. Do you want me to explain? He asked, rummaging through his clothes, or do you just want to keep yelling? Excuse me, obviously, I want you to explain. I practically exploded, throwing my hands in the air. Because I feel like I just walked into a hidden shrine dedicated to myself, and I wasn't mentally prepared for that today. Felix, now pulling on a loose white t-shirt, turned back to me, expression unreadable again. I hated when he did that. The guy could be thinking anything, and I'd never know. Meanwhile, my face is an open book, loud and chaotic, like a badly written sitcom. Finally, he spoke. I like drawing. I narrowed my eyes. No shit, Sherlock. That doesn't explain why every single page of that sketchbook is filled with me. Just me. Not landscapes, not fruits, not even a single weird anime character, just me. He sighed, running a hand through his wet hair, making it somehow look even messier and stupidly attractive. Because you're interesting to draw. I stared at him. Quote. That's your reason. That's the best you got. It's the truth. Okay. I took a deep breath, trying to process this. So you're telling me that out of every possible thing in the world, mountains, oceans, hot girls, I don't know, a cool-looking car, whatever, I'm the most interesting thing to draw. Felix gave me a long, blank stare. Then, in the calmest, most Felix-like way possible, he said, yes. I think my brain short-circuited for a moment. I pointed at him, struggling to find words. Do you even hear yourself? That sounds so suspicious. If you were anyone else, I'd think you were. I stopped myself just in time. Nope, not going there. Felix raised an eyebrow. You'd think I was what? I don't know. I groaned, pulling at my hair, feeling like my life had just taken a major unexpected plot twist. Obsessed with me or something. He was silent for a moment. Then, he simply said, maybe I am. I choked. Felix, my emotionless, cold as ice best friend, the guy who never reacted to anything, just casually said the most suspicious sentence of my life and then acted like it was nothing. Oh my God, I whispered, staring at him in shock. You're actually insane. Felix, completely unfazed, just shrugged. You always said I was. Yeah, but not like this. Felix stared at me, his eyes darkening as he suddenly stood up and stepped closer. Why are you screaming and acting like I've been hiding some dark crime from you? Both are concerning, okay, I exclaimed, backing away and grabbing a dumpling to chew on, like food could somehow save me from this conversation. I'm seriously curious. Just tell me why you did it. He looked at me like I'd grown two heads. Why are you dumb? Huh, was my question dumb? I blinked, confused. Just, please say it in clear words, or else. I like you, idiot. I choked, hard. Felix just watched me, completely unfazed. He was as cold and emotionless as ever, calmly eating a dumpling like he hadn't just dropped the biggest bomb of my life. I banged my chest, struggling to breathe. What? I coughed violently. What? You heard me. He picked up another dumpling, completely unbothered, like he'd just given me a weather update and not flipped my entire existence upside down. I pointed at him, still wheezing. No, I did not just hear you say that like it was nothing. Felix raised an eyebrow. What's so surprising? What's so? I clutched my forehead, brain short-circuiting. You've never shown interest in anyone before. You barely talk to people. You don't even look at girls when they flirt with you. Oh my God. My stomach dropped. Was that because of me? Felix sipped his water, nodding like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Obviously. I think my soul left my body. I sat there, dumpling still half chewed in my mouth, staring at him like my entire life had been a lie. So you're telling me, this whole time, you've been ignoring the entire world because you like me? Felix tilted his head, eyes narrowing slightly. Why do you sound so offended? Because, I flailed my arms, words falling over each other. Because you never said anything. You just kept drawing me like some brooding, pining love interest and didn't think maybe, just maybe, you should tell me. Felix stared blankly. I thought it was obvious. It was not obvious, he hummed, casually picking up another dumpling. Sounds like a you problem. I slammed my forehead onto the table. This was it. This was how I died. Felix just patted my head like I was a puppy who'd finally learned to sit. Take your time processing. Oh, I was processing all right. Processing the fact that my cold, emotionless best friend had been secretly in love with me this whole damn time. The next day at school was hell. I hadn't slept at all. My mind had replayed Felix's confession like a broken record, each I like you, idiot hitting harder than the last. By the time morning rolled around, I looked like a zombie, eye bags, messy hair, and the unmistakable aura of someone questioning every life decision ever made. And Felix, completely, freaking, normal. There he was, leaning against my locker like he did every morning, scrolling through his phone with that calm, emotionless face. Like he hadn't casually confessed his undying love between bites of dumplings last night. Morning, he said, glancing up. His gaze swept over my disheveled appearance. Did you get hit by a truck? I blinked slowly, hugging my books to my chest like they could shield me from reality. No, just ran over by the truth and backed over twice. Felix blinked back, unimpressed. Dramatic. I wanted to scream. How was he like this? How was he so normal? And that's when it hit me. Felix had always been like this. The quiet, soft-spoken voice reserved only for me. The way he'd silently pass me water whenever I ranted about life, how he'd wait for me after class without being asked, how he'd listen to my endless nonsense without ever getting annoyed. Had he always cared like this? Like the way he automatically reached out to fix my crooked tie, expression calm as ever. You forgot to tie it properly again, he muttered, fingers brushing my collar. I froze. This wasn't new. None of it was. Felix, I croaked, throat dry. Have you always been like this? He glanced up, eyebrows slightly furrowed like I'd asked whether the sky was blue. Yes. Oh my God. All those times I'd thought he was just being Felix, detached, low energy, quietly tolerating my existence, he'd actually been soft, caring, gentle, loving, only to me. I stumbled back like I'd been electrocuted. I'm an idiot. Felix blinked. I told you that yesterday. No, like, actually an idiot. I clutched my head, spiraling. You've been treating me like a boyfriend this whole time, and I just thought you were naturally weird and antisocial. Felix's lips twitched, almost like he was holding back a smile. It's not my fault you're slow. I pointed at him, eyes wild. You pampered me, protected me, cared for me, and I thought, what, that you were doing it out of boredom. He shrugged. Kind of hoped you'd figure it out before I had to spell it out. I groaned, dropping to the floor like my legs had given up. My whole life has been a lie. Felix crouched beside me, utterly unfazed. You're being dramatic again. Dramatic. I grabbed his sleeve, shaking him. You basically soft-launched our relationship without my knowledge. I've been unknowingly dating you for years. He patted my head, completely unbothered. Congrats. You're finally caught up. I stared at him, mind blank. This was my life now. Felix, the world's most casual lover, had outplayed me at my own game of obliviousness. And judging by the smug little smile tugging at his lips, he was absolutely enjoying every second of my breakdown. I spent the entire morning walking around like a malfunctioning robot, brain stuck on one relentless thought. Felix had always been like this. The soft, did you eat? Texts. The extra umbrella he'd always have when it rained, like he knew I'd forget mine. The way he'd casually slip his hoodie over my head when the classroom got too cold, mumbling, stop shivering, dumbass, while looking anywhere but at me. I'd been blind. Completely, utterly blind. Even now, as I stumbled through the crowded hallway like a zombie, Felix followed 2 steps behind, hands in his pockets, eyes sharp. Not talking, not making a fuss. Just quietly, there. Like always. Dude. A hand slapped my shoulder, snapping me out of my daze. It was Ryan, one of our classmates. You good? You look like you've seen a ghost. I am a ghost of stupidity past. Ryan snorted, shaking his head. Well, if you're dead inside, wanna grab lunch together? The cafeteria's selling those spicy chicken wraps you like. I opened my mouth to agree, out of habit, because Ryan and I always grabbed lunch when Felix didn't feel like eating at school. But Felix was suddenly there, silent as a shadow. He already has lunch, Felix said coolly, holding up a neatly packed bento box. My bento box. The one I didn't remember bringing. I blinked. Wait, when did you? Packed it for you this morning. You were too busy having an existential crisis to remember food. Ryan whistled, eyebrows shooting up. Damn, Felix, didn't know you were such a husband material. I laughed awkwardly, ready to brush it off like usual. But Felix's expression shifted, just slightly. His jaw tightened, eyes darkening as he stared at Ryan like he was evaluating whether murder was worth the paperwork. Find your own lunch, Felix said flatly, stepping between us. Ryan blinked. Huh, bye, Felix added, tone final. Ryan looked at me, confused. I could only shrug, equally baffled. The moment Ryan walked away, I turned to Felix, eyes wide. Were you jealous? Felix didn't answer. He just reached out, brushing a stray hair from my forehead with the gentlest touch. Eat. You get cranky when you're hungry. I froze. He's always done this, I realized, heart thudding painfully in my chest. Always standing between me and crowded hallways. Always steering me away from people who stressed me out. Always noticing the little things, when I forgot to drink water, when I got too quiet after a bad test, when I laughed to hide hurt feelings. Every gesture, every word, every glance, it had always been love. How had I missed this? Felix sighed, probably reading the sheer panic on my face. Stop overthinking. I'm not. You are, he interrupted, flicking my forehead lightly. I like you. I've always liked you. Nothing changes just because you finally realized it. Nothing changed, but everything had changed. Because now, when Felix held out his hoodie without a word, I didn't just see a friend being practical. I saw someone who had loved me quietly, patiently, endlessly, without expecting anything in return. Swallowing hard, I slipped the hoodie on. It smelled like Felix, clean, warm, safe. You're really annoying, I muttered, cheeks burning. Felix smirked. Took you long enough to notice that too. The library was quiet, the kind of quiet that made everything feel louder than it really was, the soft rustle of pages turning, the occasional click of a pen, the hum of the overhead lights. I was supposed to be studying, but my brain had officially clocked out. All I could think about was him. Felix. It wasn't like I hadn't shared close spaces with him before. We'd been side by side in this very library, cramming for tests and pretending to care about our assignments. But today was different. Today, I couldn't focus. He sat next to me, as always, but this time, the closeness felt suffocating. The way his arm brushed against mine when he turned the page of his book. The quiet way his fingers tapped the table as he thought. The scent of his cologne, light but present, mixed with the pages of the books, wrapping around me like a cloud. I glanced at him, only to find him already looking at me. His eyes, dark and unreadable as usual, flicked over my face, his lips quirking ever so slightly. Why are you staring at me like that? I muttered, trying to look away, pretending I wasn't dying inside. Felix didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned in just a little closer, his arm brushing mine once again. The casualness of it made my heart race even faster. You're being weird, he said, voice low and smooth. I frowned, pretending I didn't feel the electric tingle where our skin met. I'm not being weird. You're being weird. Felix raised an eyebrow, his face a perfect mask of nonchalance. Right, sure. And then, just like that, his hand rested casually on the table, just a few inches from mine. A small, innocent thing. But it felt like a trap. A promise. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My fingers twitched involuntarily, wanting to reach for it, but I held back. I had no idea what to do with these feelings. Felix wasn't the type to make things complicated. He was straightforward, cold, and yet, here I was, overthinking every tiny thing. I could feel his presence without even looking at him. He was so close, but somehow, I couldn't make myself move. Felix's finger brushed mine, just the tiniest touch, and my whole body jolted as if someone had shocked me with an electric current. You're so dramatic, he murmured, clearly aware of my inner struggle. I'm not dramatic, I snapped, my voice way too high-pitched. It's just, I flailed, trying to find the words. You're confusing, Felix hummed, leaning back in his chair, completely unfazed. I'm not confusing, you just think too much. I was about to argue, but he cut me off again, his thumb now gently tapping against my hand on the table. Tap, 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 focus, idiot, he said, a little smile tugging at his lips. You're supposed to be studying. I couldn't focus. I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything except the stupid thudding of my heart and the soft, almost unnoticeable touches he was giving me. Felix, casual, calm Felix, was playing with my sanity without even realizing it. The worst part, I didn't want him to stop. The entire day was a blur. I kept replaying Felix's words in my head, trying to decipher the meaning behind them. I couldn't get his expression out of my mind, the way he was so casual, so sure about everything, while I was sitting there completely lost, confused about everything I thought I knew about us. It was like a switch had flipped, and now nothing felt normal. The way he looked at me, the little touches, the way I felt safe when he was near. By the time the next morning rolled around, I couldn't bring myself to face him. I skipped school. I stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell I was doing. I didn't even tell Felix. It didn't take long for him to figure it out. I heard a frantic knocking at the door around 4 p.m., just as I was beginning to drift off to sleep. I groggily pulled myself off the bed and opened it, only to find Felix standing there, his face tense and his eyes full of concern. "Where the hell were you?" he demanded, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "You skipped school, didn't even answer my messages, and..." His words died off when he saw me, looking like a mess, eyes puffy from lack of sleep, hair a little more disheveled than usual. "Are you okay?" Felix's voice softened just a little. I didn't answer right away, my mind still tangled in the confusion and the swirling emotions that had been plaguing me since yesterday. He stepped closer, his eyes scanning me, his gaze sharp as if trying to read me like an open book. "You look like you've been through hell," Felix muttered, and then, with a soft sigh, he ran a hand through his hair. "You really scared me, you know. I thought something happened to you. I was about to kill you myself when you didn't answer." I could see the worry in his eyes, the genuine concern, and for the first time, I noticed how much he cared, really cared. He didn't always show it, but Felix wasn't like everyone else. He didn't need to shout or express his feelings to make them clear. His actions spoke louder than his words. I stared at him, trying to make sense of the storm brewing in my chest. The warmth of his presence, the way he took care of me, the soft touches here and there that I hadn't even realized meant something. Felix noticed me staring and raised an eyebrow. "What?" I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. "Felix, I took a deep breath before I blurted out the words. "Kiss me." Felix froze, his eyes widening in disbelief. He blinked, clearly caught off guard by my sudden request. What? I could feel my face turning crimson, my pulse racing as I realized how insane it sounded. But I needed to know. I needed to understand what was happening to me, to us. "I want to know my feelings," I continued, trying to keep my voice steady. "Do you think you can kiss me? Maybe that'll help me know what I feel about you. Because I'm sure I don't hate you, I've never hated you, but I just want to make sure. If I love you, too, like you love me." Felix stood there, completely still, his mouth slightly open as if the words hadn't fully registered. His eyes, locked on mine, searching for some hint of insincerity or a joke, but there was none. For once, I wasn't joking. He didn't say anything at first, and the silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. It felt like time had slowed, like the world outside had disappeared. And then, Felix did something I wasn't expecting. He stepped closer, his hands gently cupping my face, his thumb brushing against my cheek in a way that felt both tender and hesitant. His expression was serious, his usual calm facade replaced with something else, something vulnerable, something I hadn't seen from him before. His lips parted, but instead of answering right away, he just stared at me, like he was trying to decide if I was really ready for this. "Are you sure?" he whispered, his voice low and husky. I nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes." And then, without another word, Felix closed the distance between us, his lips pressing gently against mine. The moment our lips touched, everything inside me exploded. The warmth, the tenderness, the way his lips felt so natural against mine, it was like everything I had been searching for suddenly fell into place. I'd never been kissed like that before. I'd never felt anything like that before. Felix pulled away slowly, his forehead resting against mine as we both caught our breath. He was still holding my face, his thumb tracing lazy circles on my skin, and the look in his eyes was softer than I'd ever seen it. "You're an idiot," he said quietly, but there was a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "But you're my idiot." I smiled weakly, still trying to process the flood of emotions rushing through me. "I think I get it now," I said, my voice shaky. I think I like you too. My ears turned red as the words tumbled out, and I instantly regretted how awkward I sounded. Felix stared at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable, before his lips curved into the softest smile. I don't want you to think, I want you to know, he murmured, voice gentle but firm. Don't worry, I've waited this whole time, and a little more won't hurt. Just make sure you understand it well, that you want this as much as I do. Because once you agree to be with me, I'll have you completely. You'll be mine, and there'll be no escaping from me. So think wisely. His hand reached out, patting my hair with surprising tenderness before he leaned down to press a feather-light kiss on my forehead. I blinked at him, heart racing, before a shy smile spread across my lips. I nodded. Felix smiled back, pulling me into a hug so warm, so secure, that I felt like I belonged there, like nothing could touch me as long as I was in his arms. Since that day, my mind had been a mess. The kiss, his smile, his words, everything kept playing on a loop. I couldn't stop it. I was always a blushing, stuttering fool whenever we were alone, and whenever he leaned in a little too close, my heart threatened to burst. Worse, the jealousy was eating me alive. Felix barely paid attention to anyone else, yet my mind kept spiraling. What if he gets tired of waiting? What if he leaves? The thought alone made my chest ache. But every time I sulked or got jealous, there he'd be, smiling softly, patting my hair, and handing me my favorite snacks like he could read my mind. And now, he kissed my forehead so often it left me crimson red, heart doing dance rounds while butterflies threw wild parties in my stomach. Is this what they call love? First love, even. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, and somehow, beautiful. Felix, ever composed and patient, hadn't brought up the topic again. 2 whole weeks passed without him mentioning it, like he was giving me endless space to figure myself out. But the more time passed, the more certain I became. So, one day, I finally confronted my feelings and confessed. Felix didn't react the way I expected. No wide eyes, no gasp. He just smiled, leaned in, and pressed a kiss to my lips, soft, fleeting, like the brush of a feather. I know you do, he murmured against my lips. You just needed time to realize you were mine from the beginning. The audacity. This guy had been confident all along. He knew I'd fall for him eventually. HMPH. Well, I couldn't even complain. Because, damn it, I really did love him. Even after my confession, not much changed between us. Until one weekend, our mothers had gone shopping together, giggling like teenagers and throwing mischievous glances our way before they left us alone in the house. It made me nervous, my mind spiraling with thoughts I shouldn't be having. Meanwhile, Felix sat there like nothing was out of the ordinary, calmly sketching in his notebook. His brows furrowed in concentration, lips pursed, looking so serious it was almost unfair. I fidgeted, finally snapping, "You like me. I like you. We're officially a thing now. And we're alone in this house. Yet you're sitting there, acting like nothing happened, while I'm over here losing my mind." Felix didn't even blink. He glanced up, eyes as cool and unbothered as ever. "How can you say I'm calm?" he asked, voice smooth and casual. "Well, obviously, look at you." My words died in my throat as Felix suddenly lifted his sketchbook and turned it toward me. I froze. My brain short-circuited. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. Because there, in crisp, clean lines, was me. But not just any drawing of me. It was me, shirt slightly unbuttoned, hair messy, skin glistening with sweat. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes in the sketch, and my neck. My neck was littered with dark bruises. Felix's lips curled into a devilish smirk. "How can I stay calm," he drawled, eyes darkening, "when all I want is to see you like this?" "What the fuck, Felix?" I choked, face flaming. "Did you seriously draw me like that?" Sensually. He didn't even flinch. "I didn't just draw it," he murmured, snapping the sketchbook shut with one hand. His gaze locked onto mine, intense and unwavering. "I'm going to make sure you look exactly like that." I blinked. Before I could process anything, Felix was already on his feet, walking toward me with slow, predatory steps. I stumbled back until my legs hit the edge of the bed, heart hammering in my chest. Wait, are you serious, Felix? He didn't stop, hovering over me now, his fingers trailed along my collarbone, his smirk deepening. His eyes, usually so gentle, held a mischievous glint, like a hunter cornering his prey. "Let me see," he whispered, voice dangerously soft, if my drawing was accurate enough. Huh, Felix's fingers ghosted along my collarbone, his touch featherlight yet sending shivers down my spine. My breath hitched as he leaned in, his face mere inches from mine, eyes dark with mischief and something deeper, something that made my heart race wildly. What are you talking about? I stammered, pushing at his chest, but he didn't budge. Instead, his smirk widened, like a predator cornering its prey. You're blushing, he teased, thumb brushing over my burning cheek. Just like in my sketch, except, I think you'll look even better when you're flustered beyond words. I gulped, torn between embarrassment and something else I couldn't quite place. Felix, stop joking around. Joking, his voice dropped, tone laced with amusement. Oh, love, I never joke about what I want. And right now, all I want is you. Before I could react, he caged me against the headboard, his warmth enveloping me. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. He didn't do anything inappropriate, just stared into my eyes, as if waiting for me to push him away, or pull him closer. I blinked, my breath shallow. Why, you're insane. Insanely in love with you, he corrected, brushing his nose against mine. But fine, I'll behave. Just like that, he pulled away, his devilish smirk softening into the gentle smile I'd come to adore. He ruffled my hair, acting like he hadn't just turned my world upside down. Come on, let's go grab snacks. Can't have you fainting from all that blushing, can we? I sat there, stunned and speechless, watching him stroll out of the room like nothing happened. Felix, that audacious, shameless idiot, how did I ever fall for someone like him? But damn it, I really did. The sun had long set, casting a soft glow through the window as the moonlight filtered into the room. We'd finished our snacks, and now Felix was lying beside me on my bed, flipping through his sketchbook. I tried to focus on my phone, but my mind kept drifting to that ridiculous sketch from earlier. Still thinking about it? Felix asked, not even looking up. His voice held that teasing lilt that always made my heart flutter and fists clench at the same time. And no, I lied, turning away from him. Why would I think about something so stupid? Stupid. He finally set the sketchbook aside and rolled onto his side, propping his head up with one hand while the other reached out, brushing my hair away from my face. His touch lingered, warm and soft against my skin. You keep lying, but your cheeks tell the truth. I turned to glare at him, only to find myself caught in those dark, intent eyes. The teasing was gone, replaced by something more intense, something that made my breath catch and the room feel warmer. Stop looking at me like that, I muttered, trying to move away, but Felix's arms snaked around my waist, pulling me closer until there was barely an inch between us. Like what? He murmured, voice dropping to that low, velvety tone that always made my knees weak. Like I'm completely, hopelessly in love with you. My heart skipped a beat. Felix. He leaned in, his lips brushing against my forehead first, then trailing down to my temple, his breath hot against my skin. I've been patient, he whispered, thumb tracing the curve of my jaw. Waiting for you to figure out your feelings, to accept this, us. But now that you have, his lips hovered just above mine, eyes searching mine for any sign of hesitation. Can I have you now? Completely. I couldn't speak, couldn't think, only feel. The warmth of his body, the tenderness in his touch, the quiet sincerity in his words. So, instead of answering, I closed the gap between us, pressing my lips to his in a kiss that spoke volumes. Felix didn't hold back after that. His arm tightened around me, pulling me flush against him as he deepened the kiss, slow and deliberate, like he was savoring every second. His fingers trailed down my spine, leaving a trail of goosebumps in their wake. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and dazed, he rested his forehead against mine, a soft chuckle escaping his lips. Told you, he murmured, voice thick with affection. You were always mine. I didn't even bother arguing this time. Because, truth be told, I didn't want to be anything else. The night fell, casting soft shadows across the room as we lay side by side, the warmth of Felix's body close enough to feel but not quite touching. I stared up at the ceiling, my heart still racing from the kisses we had shared earlier. I broke the silence, voice hesitant. Since when do you like me? And since when have you been drawing me? Felix didn't answer right away. I turned my head to look at him, and there he was, lying on his side, propped up on one elbow, gaze fixed on me like I was the only thing worth looking at. His lips curled into that soft, knowing smile that always made me feel unsteady. Since forever, he finally murmured, brushing a stray hair from my forehead. Since the first time you talked to me like I was someone worth knowing, while everyone else just passed by. I blinked, surprised. But we were kids. Felix shrugged. Feelings don't care about age. I didn't know it was love back then, just that being near you made everything feel easier. Brighter. My breath hitched, heart squeezing at his words. And the drawings. His smile turned mischievous. Do you want the innocent answer or the real one? I gulped, cheeks heating. The real one, I guess. Felix leaned in, his lips brushing my earlobe as he whispered, I've been drawing you since the day I realized no face, no body, no expression could ever hold my attention the way yours does. The heat spread from my cheeks down my neck. Why you're such a flirt. Only with you. He chuckled, fingers tracing the side of my face, down to my jaw, then under my chin, tilting my head toward him. His gaze softened, dark eyes flickering to my lips. You're the only one who ever mattered. Before I could respond, he closed the distance, capturing my lips in a kiss that was slow, deliberate, like he was memorizing the shape of my mouth. His hand slid to the small of my back, pulling me closer until our bodies were pressed together, no space left between us. The kiss deepened, his tongue teasing mine, sending shivers down my spine. I clung to his shirt, not trusting my knees, or any part of me, really, to hold steady under the weight of the moment. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, Felix rested his forehead against mine, thumb brushing over my bottom lip, already swollen from his kisses. Still think I'm calm, he teased, voice rough around the edges. I couldn't answer, not when his lips found my jaw, trailing down to the sensitive spot below my ear. Not when his hand, warm and possessive, slid under the hem of my shirt, tracing lazy circles against my waist. Tell me to stop, Felix murmured against my skin, breath hot. I didn't, I couldn't. Instead, I tilted my head, giving him more access, heart pounding in my chest as his lips found mine again, softer this time but no less consuming. I was his, completely, and I didn't want to escape. The next morning, I stirred awake, the warmth beside me unmistakable. Felix's arm was draped lazily across my waist, his face peaceful in sleep. For a moment, I just lay there, trying to process everything, his kisses, his touch, the way he'd looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. But the moment I tried to sit up, a sharp sting bloomed along my neck. Confused, I stumbled out of bed and caught my reflection in the mirror. My eyes widened, bruises, dark, unmistakable marks scattered across my neck and collarbone, blooming like wildflowers, tracing the exact pattern Felix had drawn. He really had made sure of the accuracy. I groaned, touching the most prominent one near my throat. He actually did it, I muttered under my breath, cheeks burning. Of course I did. I jumped, spinning around to find Felix sitting up, hair messy and eyes still heavy with sleep. But that lazy, devilish smirk was already playing on his lips. As I expected, he drawled, stretching like a satisfied cat, you look much better than the sketch this way. Felix, I threw a pillow at him, face burning hotter than the sun. He caught it effortlessly, laughing, and before I could escape, he was already out of bed, pinning me against the wall with one hand braced beside my head. His gaze roamed over my neck, eyes darkening with undeniable pride. Now everyone will know you're mine, he murmured, fingers brushing one of the bruises, making me shiver. You're insane, I muttered, trying to glare but failing miserably as he leaned in, lips hovering near mine. And you love it, he whispered, sealing his words with a kiss that left me breathless all over again. Damn it, he was right. Felix, ever the composed one, sat cross-legged on the bed, holding a spoonful of rice in front of my face. I, on the other hand, was still sulking, arms crossed and cheeks puffed out like a child. Open up, Felix said patiently, the corner of his lips twitching in amusement. I glared at him, shifting uncomfortably as the sting of the bruises on my neck reminded me of last night. I hate you. No, you don't, he replied easily, pushing the spoon closer. Come on, eat, you'll need energy for, later. His smirk was downright sinful. I sputtered, face flushing scarlet. Felix, all right, he chuckled, finally succeeding in feeding me a bite. I was still grumbling under my breath when the sound of the front door opening froze me in place. Our mothers. Panic shot through me like lightning. I practically jumped out of bed, eyes wide as I hissed, Felix, my neck. They're gonna see. They'll kill us, kill me. Felix, in contrast, casually set the bowl aside and stretched like he didn't have a care in the world. Relax, relax, are you insane? I frantically tried to button up my shirt higher, but it was useless. The bruises peeked out no matter what I did. The bedroom door swung open, and there they were, our mothers, bags of groceries in hand, eyes immediately landing on the both of us. I froze. This was it, the end. But instead of shock or anger, their faces lit up with the biggest, most mischievous grins I'd ever seen. Felix's mom practically squealed. Finally, she beamed, dropping her bags on the floor. My mom clasped her hands together like she was witnessing a fairy tale come to life. We've been waiting for this moment forever. My jaw dropped. What? Felix, the absolute devil that he was, simply leaned back against the headboard, arms behind his head, looking perfectly satisfied. Told you to relax. My mother wagged a finger at me, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Oh, don't act so surprised. You think we didn't notice the way you looked at each other? We've been shipping you two since middle school. I stared at them, utterly betrayed. Mom, Felix just chuckled, tugging me by the wrist until I stumbled into his lap. Guess we didn't need to hide it after all. I buried my face in my hands, mortified, while our moms chattered excitedly about wedding themes. Felix kissed my temple, voice soft but smug. Told you, you're mine, no escaping now. I groaned into my palms. What had I gotten myself into? The sun filtered through the window, casting soft golden light across the room. Months had passed since that chaotic morning, and life had settled into an odd but beautiful routine. Felix, I called, stretching lazily on the couch. Did you finish that stupid sketch you were working on last night? Stupid. Felix's voice floated from the kitchen. You mean the one of you sleeping with your mouth wide open? Yeah, it's done. Should I frame it? I shot up, horrified. You did not. A chuckle sounded. Closer now. Felix emerged, 2 mugs of coffee in hand, his hair tousled and falling into his eyes. He looked annoyingly perfect for someone who claimed to have just woken up. He sat beside me, handing me a mug before pressing a kiss to my cheek like it was second nature. It was. Relax. I wouldn't frame that one. I'd keep it in my sketchbook for personal enjoyment. I narrowed my eyes, trying not to blush. Personal enjoyment, my ass. Exactly, Felix teased, winking. Before I could smack him with a cushion, the doorbell rang. I groaned, flopping back dramatically. If it's our moms again, planning a joint vacation, I'm moving out. Felix laughed, heading to the door. They just love seeing their dream ship sail, baby. The word baby still sent butterflies into overdrive. I hated how much power this man had over me. But when Felix opened the door, it wasn't our moms. It was a delivery guy, holding a package with a familiar logo. I sat up, curious. What's that? Felix smirked, tossing the package onto my lap. Open it and see. Raising an eyebrow, I ripped the cardboard open. Inside was a custom-made phone case. My eyes widened. It was one of Felix's sketches, me, laughing, eyes crinkled, hair a mess, looking so stupidly happy. Felix, I breathed, voice soft. He sat beside me, pulling me close until my head rested on his shoulder. Told you I'd keep drawing you. Every version, every moment. I bit my lip, heart swelling in my chest. Damn it, how did I ever stand a chance against this guy? Guess there's really no escaping you, huh? I muttered. Felix kissed the top of my head, smile warm and content. Told you from the start. You're mine, forever. Years had passed, but some things never changed. Felix, caring, thoughtful, and endlessly patient, remained the same. Our lives had matured, responsibilities grew, and success followed us like a shadow. After graduation, we built a business together, a dream that started with late-night conversations and sketch-filled notebooks. Now, that dream stood tall, thriving beyond our expectations. But no matter how much changed around us, Felix's devotion stayed constant. The important business meeting had ended hours ago, a major partnership sealed, but my mind was stuck on the way Felix's hand never left mine throughout the entire presentation. Protective, grounding, and possessive in the most comforting way. Now, back in our shared apartment, he was no different. The door had barely closed behind us when Felix's arms wrapped around my waist from behind, pulling me flush against his chest. His lips found the curve of my neck, brushing soft, teasing kisses along the skin he'd marked countless times before. You handled today perfectly, he murmured against my skin, voice low and warm. I couldn't take my eyes off you. I laughed, leaning into him. You were supposed to focus on the presentation, not me. How can I focus on anything else when you're right there, looking like that? He spun me around, backing me toward the couch until my legs hit the edge. Without warning, he pushed me down gently, caging me in as he hovered above, eyes dark with something familiar, love, desire, and that unwavering fondness he'd had since the beginning. Felix, I whispered, heart racing. Aren't you tired? He smiled, brushing stray hair from my face. Never when it comes to you. His lips met mine, soft, slow, savoring, like he had all the time in the world. And he did. We did. The kiss deepened, hands exploring familiar paths, my waist, my back, the nape of my neck, each touch igniting warmth that spread through my entire body. It wasn't hurried or desperate, it was love, pure and undeniable. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and flushed, Felix rested his forehead against mine, thumb brushing over my cheek with that same tenderness he'd always shown. Years passed, he whispered, but you're still my favorite thing in this world. My first love, my only love. My throat tightened. How did I ever get so lucky? I cupped his face, smiling through the tears that threatened to fall. And you're mine, Felix. Always. The night ended as it always did, wrapped in each other's arms, hearts beating in sync, love as strong and enduring as ever. Because some things never change, and with Felix, I never wanted them to.